Many people in the world face untimely death owing to overeating. In Buddhism, fasting is recognized as one of the methods for practicing self-control. The Buddha advised monks not to take solid food after noon. Lay people who observe the 8 precepts on full moon days also abstain from taking any solid food after noon. Critics sometimes regard these practices as religious fads. They are not religious fads, but practices based on a moral and psychological insight. In Buddhism, fasting is an initial stage of self-discipline to acquire self-control. In every religion, there is a system of fasting. By fasting and sacrificing a meal once a day or for any period, we can contribute our food to those who are starving or who do not have even a proper meal each day. A man who eats too much, writes Leo Tolstoy, cannot strive against laziness, while a gluttonous and idle man will never be able to contend with sexual lust. Therefore, according to all moral teachings, the effort towards self-control commences with a struggle against the lust of gluttony, commences with fasting, just as the first condition of a good life is self-control. So the first condition of a life of self-control is fasting. Sages in various countries who practiced self-control began with a system of regulated fasting and succeeded in attaining unbelievable heights of spirituality. An ascetic was kicked and tortured, and then his hands and feet were severed on the orders of a rakish king. But the ascetic, according to the Buddhist story, endured the torture with equanimity and without the slightest anger or hatred. Such religious people have developed their mental power through restraining from sensual indulgence. What is Buddhism? This question has puzzled many people who often inquire if Buddhism is a philosophy, a religion, or a way of life. The simple answer is that Buddhism is too vast and too profound to be neatly placed in any single category. Of course, Buddhism includes philosophy and religion and a way of life. But Buddhism goes beyond these categories. The categories or labels given to Buddhism are like signboards to let the people know what is being presented. If we compare Buddhism to a medicine shop, it will be clear that the signboard on the medicine shop will not cure a person of his sickness. If the medicine is effective, then you can use it to heal yourself without being concerned as to the signboard that merely gives a label for the medicine. Likewise, if the teaching of the Buddha is effective, then use it, and do not be concerned about the label or signboard. Do not try to slip Buddhism into any single category or limit it under any signboard. Different people living at different times and in different places have given different labels and interpretations to Buddhism. To some people, Buddhism might appear to be only a mass of superstitious practices. To another group of people, Buddhism might be a convenient label to be used for temporal gains. To another group, it is old-fashioned. To yet another group, Buddhism will have significance as a system of thought for intellectuals only. To some others, it is a scientific discovery. To the pious and devout Buddhist, Buddhism means his entire life, the fulfillment of all he holds near and dear to him. Some intellectuals see Buddhism as a product of its Indian environment or as an outgrowth of another kind of Indian religious teaching. Buddhism is nothing but the noble truth. It is an intellectual approach to reality. The Buddha's realization of universal problems did not come through a purely intellectual or rational process, but through mental development and purification. The intellectual stance, reminiscent of the scientific attitude, surely makes the Buddha absolutely unique among religious teachers of all time. Of course, the high standard of intellectual inquiry and ethical endeavor prevailing at the time in India were prime conditions for the re-emergence of the light of the Dhamma from the darkness of oblivion. Thousands of years of religious and philosophical development had left on the intellectual soil of India a rich and fertile deposit of ideas and ideals, which formed the best possible environment into which the seed of the Dhamma could fall. Greece, China, Egypt, and Babylonia, for all their loftiness of thought, had not attained the same quality of vision as the forest and mountain-dwelling sages of India. The germ of enlightenment, which had been born like a winged seed from distant fields, from worlds in space and time infinitely remote from ours, this very germ of enlightenment found growth and development in the northeastern corner of India. This very germ of enlightenment found its full expression in the experience of the man Gautama Buddha. The fountainhead of all Buddhism is this experience which is called enlightenment. With this experience of enlightenment, the Buddha began his teaching not with any dogmatic beliefs or mysteries, but with a vivid, universal experience which he gave to the world as a universal truth. Therefore, the real definition of Buddhism is noble truth. Remember that the Buddha did not teach from theories. He always taught from a practical standpoint based on his understanding, his enlightenment, and his realization of the truth. Therefore, may you be well and happy, blessed by the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Sabbe satta bhavantu sukhitatta.